stage come here.
So guys, my name is Ed Poprovsky. I'm a comedian and producer here in New York. I also just so happen to be a Korean-American adoptee from Philadelphia. So, you know, it was an easy job to get, clearly. I have a little bit of an in. So, I just want to start off by asking you guys, and we can kind of go down the line, of just what was the spark, what was the inspiration, what first started you to want to cover this specific topic in the Asian American community?
Well, actually, Bianca and I know each other for about 10 years or so, and we used to run the equivalent of this festival in Europe, so the Asian Film Festival of Amsterdam, Netherlands. And one of our things was always about representation in media, representation of Asians in media, that we believe that to be seen and to be heard on screen meant that you existed. So that's really something we both really believe in. And then Bianca moved to New York, and one day she called me and she said, "Oh, I met this guy who's also a Korean adoptee, and he has a super interesting story, really different. He's a model, and he's really out there trying to make it, and he's encountering some difficulties, topics that we both feel very strongly about representation, about the glass ceiling." And then she said, "Yeah, I think his story would make a really good film, like a documentary or something." And she said, "Oh, do you want to do it? Because I'm a filmmaker as well." And I said, "Well, that's great, but I've never made a documentary. Normally make narrative films." And but then she's like, "Yeah, you should do it. You know, maybe if you don't do it, no one's going to do it." So yeah, I think that's how I got aboard. But really, I think Bianca was really the start of it. So maybe you can.
Yeah, so when I met Kevin in Philadelphia, he was like telling me that he was struggling and you were angry and you were frustrated by being an Asian man. And I look at him and I'm like, you are already struggling with that. What about all the others out there? So yeah, that's when I started to talk to Doris, and well, as she just mentioned, we always like want to tell the stories of the Asian community, and that's how Doris really discovered like the story, and she brought it to life. And yeah, I think like with everybody and half the people here like contributed something to the film. So thank you so much for that. It has been an amazing journey, and your generosity has been humbling. Thank you for that.
What inspired me to do this? Well, it was about me. Like, that was inspirational. No, besides, like, I'm kidding, but not really. That was part of it. But I would say it was because I wanted Asian men to finally have a voice. I saw that there was something missing in the culture, especially with the uprising of all of this movement towards diversity and inclusion. And I'm like, where are the Asian guys? And I remember when I first did that video with Jeremy Lin, I was a little scared because I'm like, man, I'm not used to talking about this shit, and he's probably thinking I'm gonna ask a basketball question, and he was so honest. And that gave me like the green light. I was like, oh wow, things are changing. Maybe it's a good time to start speaking. And then when I shared it with Bianca, and then I had two Asian women be like, wow, yeah, I didn't know that. That's you know, and then I was like, okay, something's happening. And like I said in the past, but Asian women were the last people I ever expected to give a shit about this topic, or how I felt growing up as a man, you know, and an Asian man. So I put my trust in them, and I just said, let's just do it. And I was really happy with everything.
So I joined the team as a documentarian, hoping to help Doris and Bianca to capture the often very complex nuances of Kevin's life. And for that matter, I think we owe it to Kevin's courage to explore his vulnerabilities and including especially the less glamorous aspects of his life. It takes like tremendous courage, and for me, watching him, witnessing him struggle with his racial identity, but also the very confining singular standard of masculinity, it was a great learning experience as a native Chinese, and also with a queer perspective. And I really hope, and I do believe, like we did capture some raw, honest moments that everyone can resonate with.
Kevin, to get to the raw moments and the vulnerability that's kind of featured here, how scary was it to kind of like give over that control, because you had been making videos or talking a little bit leading up to? Did you find there was a moment that you were really just scared about giving control over to someone else to craft this story?
Yeah, definitely. I had a lot of points, and we've butted heads many times in this, where I was just like, no, that's not how, you're not this, like, you know, and it's just like I had to let go. And then I personally found the more honest I am with my experience and my story, the more well perceived it is, and the more people can learn from it, I can learn from it. And so I had to keep remembering that. Like, I had to keep remembering, just share your truth, just share your truth. Go back to what it was like with online dating, go back to, you know what I mean, and really cut open those wounds again, because it was like, you know, there was in and out moments. I almost felt like I was going back to when I was like in high school at times, you know, and that was really hard at times. And they told me, like, we gotta push you, we gotta push you, we gotta push you to go back there too, you know? And so, yeah, it was very scary, but really what I was really scared about was my family. You know, you can shit on me, but I was like, ooh, please don't put that in there. You know, like I was just bad or whatever. But I trusted them, and they reassured me this documentary was just going to be about the topic, and I was really happy with that.
Do you think having your family there in it and having those questions, even times that they challenged you, how important do you think that was, having them very involved in the film itself?
Oh, super important. I mean, nobody would believe me, right, if my family wasn't involved, I think. And I think what is great about my family is that I do get challenged. Maybe I couldn't have handled it when I was a kid. I can totally handle it now. And they keep pushing me and asking me questions, and I have to question myself too. I'm like, how much of this is a real insecurity now? Or how much of this have I actually gotten over? And I think the reason why I can speak about it more is because I've looked into this resentment, you know, and I've been able to really heal from it. And to do this documentary and speak, like all these things that I've done, like really helped me to actually speak and help other people who felt the same way I did. Asian or not, you know, it was actually a lot of people who were like Black, gay, lesbian that reached out to me and said, I felt exactly like you. I felt so different. I felt so lonely. And I didn't have anybody to talk about it, you know? And so that was actually a huge thing for me, and it got me more involved in my community.
Can I just go down the line one more time and say, what's one thing, and there's obviously plenty of things to take away from this film, but what's just one thing that each of you hopes people kind of get from this film?
I think, I mean, for me, the initial thing that drew me to this story, when I first met Kevin and he told me his story, I was really touched. It really actually moved me. I don't know why, I was like a model and he's complaining about not being handsome. I'm like, okay, like, who's gonna watch this movie, right? Right? And but then when he told me more, and then I felt really like, wow, you know, there was something about it and about him that really got to me. And I think also Bianca, we really wanted to help him tell his story, his point of view. You know, as two Asian women, like, you know, telling Kevin's side of the story. So I think I hope the audience can also get that feeling from watching this, the initial feeling that I had when I met Kevin and he told me his story face to face. That's what I tried to put in here, that the audience can also see his struggles. He's not a perfect person by far, as we all are, but I think his struggles are universal, and especially speaking to not just Asian Americans, but I think to the wider population, but you know, through our lens.
I hope you guys take away that the damage that stereotypes can do, right, through Kevin's story. And on top of that, how important it is to dispel those stereotypes. And I hope for all other Asian men out there that you realize by watching this film that you're not alone. It's not you.
The one message I would like to put out there is that I'm single. And I'm near perfect. I want to put out there that
That was going to be my last question. No, it's okay. Go ahead.
skipping ahead, I wanted to just share that I hope that our community can find strength in this message, because I just find that since I've had this transformation in my life, that I don't see Asians as like inferiors. You know, I don't see anything to be ashamed of. If anything, I find it to be I'm super inspired by the community. I feel so comfortable in this community where I felt so uncomfortable. And that if you ever feel ashamed of being Asian or feel embarrassed at one point or feel insecure, I just say lean into our community. That's what I would like.
Obviously the film tackles like a hot topic of Asian masculinity, or masculinity in general, and we also know there are many forms of masculinity, so we hope like audience can take from that, but also to appreciate or like to which like other people's real struggle. Kevin's struggle is real, and it's often so easy to dismiss other people's struggle because you're judgmental or it doesn't have anything to do with you, and that's my hope.
Did you want to say one more thing, Doris?
I think, just from what everyone said here, our core team, I think what I hoped, and I hope for everyone when they watch it, and for Kevin himself, especially him and his family, that the journey was a healing journey. Because there was a lot of, you had a lot of anger, you had a lot of things you wanted to say that you couldn't say or express. And you expressed it to us, and we tried to interpret that, in this film. And I hope in this process with us, and by showing your family and also the wider audience out there, that it was part of a process, a healing process for you and for others.
Yeah, it definitely was. If I totally recommend everybody getting a documentary on it. Super self-aware.
We'll all start working on that right now. So you guys know it's good. So guys, that's our panel, and I just want to invite you guys, because obviously we didn't get as much time as maybe we wanted to dive into some of these things. But if you guys want to hear more, I'm going to have them on. I have an Asian variety show that's happening tomorrow night called Unwashed Comedy at the Pit at 8 o'clock here in New York City. So if you want to come to that and hear more from these guys and hear more about the film and the process and about their lives, please come out to that at Unwashed Comedy. You can find it on social media platforms, and we'll have another discussion, and maybe some time, because it'll be a little bit smaller, more intimate, sometimes for some audience questions there. But right now I'm going to hand it back over to these guys.
I got
one more thing.
One request, I'm sorry. You know I'm a social media person, so on the count of 3, please say, go see Ugly Model. 1, 2, 3! Go see Ugly Model!
One more request was that I always take a selfie with every screening, so we could just, if you're Instagram people, right? Say, Ugly Model!
Okay. I know I said I'm a social media person, but it didn't say it. One more time. 1, 2, 3. Go see Ugly Model!
We're also going to be at 10 o'clock at Muses, where there's going to be a party after. So if you want to join us, it starts at 10 o'clock, and we're all going to be there if you have more questions.
Yes, thank you all for coming out to this lovely